Hello everyone on the internet and thanks for tuning in. I'm RyuKiva of RyuKiva Toku. There are no products to unbox or analyse, nor is there a brother at my side on the split screen. It's just me, my camera phone and my list. Welcome to my tokusatsu chart rundown 2020. My charts took days to compile. I look at each series on their merits and flaws alone before having each one face off with other series in its franchise to give them a score. The league tables had their positions based on points alone, and I would either bump them up or bring them down based on how I actually felt they should go on my own personalised chart. Everything in these charts is spoiler free. I will summarise a rundown for each series in ascending order, outlining for each my thoughts overall, various comparisons before stating its score and recommendations. Let me know what you think.
Activate Beast Power!
Where does your favourite Power Ranger series appear on my list? As someone who has watched every episode, this is part 2 of my list. Here I will be talking about those that rank to my top 13. Let's begin. So in at number 13, Super Samurai. So I will say the main reason this ranks so high is I actually loved the Deca storyline. Lauren was quite hot. Lauren had a good storyline. It wasn't so much like Shinkenger that Lauren and Jaden were brother and sister, so it kind of gelled a little better, and that's just my own opinion. And again, with both series, I do like the Nylock storylines that was going on, and again, both had good martial arts. The one thing that just sticks out like a sore thumb for Super Samurai is why is the main family white? But, you know, I will say as well, you had Pink Ranger in this, and she had her brother, and I did not rate their singing garbage. What was that about? I will say Super Samurai was a lot closer to Shinkenger in terms of how I felt good about both series. And even though it made it into my top 13, it's like, you know, Shinkenger still had a bit more pizzazz to it. And again, it made sense ethnically. Again, a very racial thing. I will still score Super Samurai 13 points, with 2 draw points in on that. In at number 12, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. Right, so this series should have died by now, but then they limped on with Lost Galaxy, but I still felt, alright, they actually did something quite cool, even though it was a bit low budget and, you know, all, you know, mystical and stuff, and they were mishmashing a lot. I mean, because Gingaman at least had its straight sort of hippie vibe. Whereas Lost Galaxy was they were trying to combine the hippie vibe with, oh, let's just send them into space again. In comparison to Gingaman, I will still say that Lost Galaxy was better. I did like the whole gooey bug thing that, you know, the hot bug woman, brilliant. I mean, Yellow Ranger, what was going on? I mean, wah wee wah. And then I did like Magna Defender's storyline. As much as I felt mixed about this Star Trooper garbage that they had at the beginning. So, you know, you don't necessarily have to be into space stuff to watch the series. I mean, it had like a lot of good stuff going on. I mean, maybe if you like more of your horror thing, you know, like your horror vibe. You know, there's a lot going on with the Father Bog thing. And, you know, I'll say that the Pink Ranger storyline and, you know, bringing in Corone and stuff, I mean, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. I mean, I'll be honest, when I was watching this, I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling this Pink Ranger thing. But looking back at it, I can appreciate the storytelling, the scripting, if you will. But I will be honest, when it came to Lost Galaxy, I'm not sure I knew what was going on half the time. I still managed to score it 14 points though, with 2 draw points. In at number 11, even though it was only 10 episodes, Alien Rangers. I will say this had so much potential, they could have done so much more, and they could have done more since. And you know, like, they barely touched in during Zeo. But the Alien Rangers, I absolutely loved. I loved everything about them. I loved the sci-fi elements. So if you're into your sci-fi thing, that's definitely here. If you love your alien thing, that's definitely here. If you love your ninja thing, that's definitely here. I mean, you know, basing it on Kaku Rangers was definitely sort of like well on that. So, you know, I did like the mecha even though there was too many of them. But it at least made a little bit more sense during the end of Mighty Morphin and Alien Rangers as opposed to Kaku Ranger where they were just throwing mecha everywhere. I will still say wasn't feeling the Zeo prelude that was going on here, and I wish it was longer because everything about this mini-series was really cool, and it does make its own entry on my list where I scored it 15 points with only 2 draw points. into my top 10. In at number 10, even though less than 10 episodes for Alien Rangers, in at number 10 is Saban's Power Rangers, the 2017 movie. I have given this its own entry because I felt it's so far removed from Mighty Morphin, despite the fact that they based a lot of stuff from Mighty Morphin, but it was very far removed, but not to a disadvantage. I mean, I felt it was, you know, it had that mature vibe going on, which is what they were going for. That Megazord, though, WTF. And, you know, like, yeah, there was some really good funny moments in here. I mean, yeah, I loved the whole, you know, the way it was upscaled. I mean, you know, like, they had these very decently rounded teams. And I loved the way that Jason and Zordon faced off with one another all the time. I mean, obviously, you know, they weren't going to do too much reoccurring from Mighty Morphin itself. And as much as I love Bill Hader, I was not feeling the Alpha 5 vibe. And, you know, like, they were kind of, you know, it kind of felt like they were pandering a bit, especially with JDF's appearance. Like, really, did you have to bring him in on this? I mean, a lot of people loved his appearance. I'm just like, I mean, you know, they could have done, they should have kept in my opinion, they should have kept in the juice bar scene. But that end scene, I'm just like, really? Did you have to? And yeah, Goldar was garbage. I mean, what were they doing with Goldar here? Whereas, you know, on the other hand, Rita Repulsa was pretty good here. You know, so, you know, there were a lot of redeeming features, like, you know, like the way they updated Zack's character. You know, everything they did with Billy's character wasn't quite feeling the, you know, like, again, when it came to Jason, I guess Jason, yeah, but I really wasn't feeling Kimberly or Trini at all, if I'm genuinely honest. I will still say that 2017 Saban's Power Rangers movie scored 11 points. So I did bump it up a fair bit, and it scored 2 draw points. Coming back to talking about the main franchise, in at number 9, Ninja Storm. So I actually liked Ninja Storm. I mean, the reason I probably rated it down is because the villains were too comedic. So it should have done better, really. But, you know, I loved the main 3 Rangers. I loved the sort of Disney spin that, you know, like, they kind of gave it this kind of darker vibe for our heroes. It was very sort of World's End kind of thing. I loved what they did with Cam and the Green Ranger. The 2 brothers, not as good as Hurricanegers, Go Ryagers, but still better than nothing. And, you know, Tori was absolutely scorching hot. Definitely better than Hurricane Blue. And, you know, they kind of gave her this thing with one of the Ninja brothers, which, again, they could have expanded on, but what are you going to do? How do I feel about Lothar and the villains? Again, those Monsters of the Week were better than Lothar himself, even though that actor, you know, again, veteran actor, I believe he has passed on, so R.I.P., or maybe he hasn't, I'm not too sure. But I will still say I scored Ninja Storm 10 points with 4 draw points. In at number 8 is Power Rangers Dino Charge. I loved this series. I mean, it should have done better on the chart personally, but I'll definitely say it was better than Kyoryuger. I mean, Shelby was hot, Chase was funny. Tyler, was it Tyler? Or I can't remember people's names. You know, our Red Ranger was pretty cool. Brenda, Medjin, I watch him on social media. Yeah, very good. Still a lot of sloppy editing, and I did not like Kendall. Kendall was very nasty to Shelby, and I always held that against her. And, you know, and just like Dino Supercharged, don't like the fact that Keeper was an E.T. ripoff. And, you know, to put it on the Sentai bit, all those formations were doing my head in a bit. And the end episodes were a bit mishmash. And, you know, the generals and stuff, again, I'll say Kyoryuger actually did the generals better. In terms of full-on comparison, I'll say Dino Charge edges it over Kyoryuger. I scored Dino Charge 12 points with 4 draw points. In at number 7, Lightspeed Rescue. I did love this series. I love Titanium Ranger. Titanium Ranger was the first American original. The one thing I'll say is the downside is I felt they didn't do enough with Titanium Ranger. They should have done a lot more with him. It would have been awesome. I loved him. You know, like, again, this is kind of like, if you like those films, kind of like Tomb Raider, so yeah, like kind of getting back on the recommendation vibe. If you like those kind of Tomb Raider, National Treasure thing, or, you know, even where they were kind of like, you know, trying to base it off Go-Go 5 a bit, you know, trying to rescue the world. So it is very much your, you know, if you like your RoboCop style thing, if you like your cop style thing, if you like your sort of heroic action type thing, this is definitely more on it. I mean, you know, I loved Miss Mayweather. She was bae for days, but yeah, how I felt about Green Ranger constantly going off to her, I kind of felt that was kind of a very stereotypical player kind of thing that they did with him, which kind of brought it down in my estimation a bit. I'm like, WTF, bruh. So I still scored Lightspeed Rescue 13 points, but I scored more draw points, 8. In at number 6, Jungle Fury. Now, Jungle Fury should have done better. I don't think it was as good as Geki Ranger, but it was still pretty good. Now, the fun thing for me with Jungle Fury is I watched it during broadcast. I did not like it all, but when I watched it second time around, I actually appreciated it more, a lot more. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of comedy from RJ. I loved RJ as a character, you know, very spaced out. I mean, the choreo should have been better considering Geki Ranger had amazing choreography. I will say, not too sure how I felt about Rhino Ranger, whereas at least Red Ranger was, you know, even though he was the rookie Red, I mean, Tio and the girl, I mean, the girl was hot, but Tio, I'm not too sure what I made of him. But Daishi, it was all about Daishi in this. I mean, you know, again, a bit more of a Sentai rip on that, but that's not a bad thing here. Rookie Rangers, not Rookie Rangers, Spirit Rangers. Man, I feel a bit 50-50 on that. But I did score, I mean, this one's got quite a leap in score. Jungle Fury did score 20 points with 2 draw points. So going into the top 5, these are the ones that kind of won a lot. Number 5, Mighty Morphin.
It's Morphin time!
Obviously, I've grouped 3 seasons worth into one banner because it is one banner, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I mean, there's so much to talk about here, but I will try my best to summarise everything. So season 1 was absolutely amazing. It set the precedent. I mean, Rita Repulsa was obviously a watered down Bandora, and you know, Griforza was Goldar, but was also watered down in terms of involvement. But still, you know, the whole Jason and Goldar dynamic, the whole Tommy and Goldar dynamic was pretty good. When it comes to season 2, I absolutely loved Lord Zed. Everyone loved Lord Zed, but unfortunately the kids were too scared, so he had to be watered down. I mean, in terms of Rocky, Aisha and Adam, I'll be honest, I wasn't feeling them. But yet still, you know, like it was still like, oh wow, cool. And then they had to do this mishmash editing because of Die Ranger. Mighty Morphin is a billion times better than Die Ranger, but it just isn't as great as U Ranger. But I will still give it its props for being like the first to attempt anything here. When it comes to Series 3, it was a parody. I mean, Rita Revolto coming from Prince Jr. of Kaku Ranger. Prince Jr. was a billion times better, and you know why they went down this parody route, I'm not too sure. Maybe it's to do with lower viewer figures, or to try to get kids a bit more interested in it. Because when it came to the movie was amazing. I absolutely loved Ivan Ooze. I mean, and again, the CGI, you know, that was astonishing back in the day. I've got to give it its props. What more can I say about Mighty Morphin? I mean, those Z parties were a bit garbage as well. I mean, Bulk and Skull were at their best during these seasons, and yet, you know, when they went on to be police officers or something, I'm just like, man, what the hell are you doing? Ninja absolutely irritated the hell out of me, and you know, there's a lot of inconsistency with Tommy's storyline, if I'm genuinely honest. However, I did score Mighty Morphin 20 points with 2 draw points. In at number 4, Beast Morphers.
Activate Beast Power!
This played a lot heavy on nostalgia. I don't know why it did. I mean, it wasn't an anniversary series or nothing, but yet, you know, bringing in Austin St. John was still better than Super Ninja Steel, and still miles better than Operation Overdrive. I mean, I think Hasbro was just flexing on the world with this one. because even when it came to the main, you know, like the non-nostalgia stuff, there was so much good in it. I mean, I actually did cry during Beast Morphers. I mean, maybe that's a bit much. And, you know, like, I think fans were just relieved to get something better than Super Ninja Steel. But this was a genuinely good, enjoyable series. I do felt that they kind of shat over Go Busters with watering down Messiah to make Evox. And, you know, like, they really did tie it in with previous series in terms of, you know, end of series. And again, like, even though this didn't have a super season, I am bunching 2 years into one here. Yeah, I absolutely love Zoe's character. She was quite a peppy character. Ben and Betty, at least towards the end, in my opinion, they became clever. Like, so it wasn't so much that Nickelodeon vibe that I keep criticising. And yet, I'll still say that they could have done so much more with Blaze and Roxy, and there was a few plot holes in regards to them. But still, you know, like, I like that Maya character. I don't know why. And, you know, Devon was definitely a good leader. I did bump this one up a fair bit. It scored 18 points, but it did draw 5. In at number 3, Time Force. Time Force. Time for Time Force. Right, so when it comes to Time Force, I will say it was definitely a strong series. It took a lot from Time Ranger, admittedly, but, you know, I absolutely loved our Yellow Ranger. I absolutely loved Wes's storyline. Jen was a kick-butt Pink Ranger, but massive props has to go to 2 characters. Wes Collins' father. So the whole Collins family storyline, even though it was a massive rip from the Time Ranger story, I felt a little bit more empathetic to the Collins storyline here. But it's all about Rancic here. Rancic is a sick character. I absolutely loved Rancic. And I will say that, you know, Nadira was a bit goofy, and so was that damn owl. You know, it was still stylish. I forget his name, but even Quantum Ranger was still pretty badass. I will still say Time Ranger was a little better, though. And, you know, like, I think, you know, this is it's very much, you know, I'd say my top 3 in general are very strong on the sci-fi element. So anyone who's into the sci-fi more, not necessarily so much the martial arts. Because, you know, I'd probably say Mighty Morphin was more martial art. You know, I said, you know, like, Samurai and Super Samurai were decent on the martial art. These 3, not necessarily too strong, but it is all about that pew, pew, pew. I gave Time Force 19 points, but it did have 4 draw points. In at number 2 is SPD Emergency. I loved the aesthetics of this show. I mean, you know, not just what it got from Deca Ranger. I mean, the fact that they've got a better looking Doggy Kruger. You know, they really put an effort here. And yes, there was a massive criticism on how close it was to the Sentai story, but putting in General Grum was pretty good. I actually felt that Doggy Kruger's story was a little bit more in depth than Doggy Kruger from Deca Ranger. I absolutely loved Morgana's character for all the obvious reasons, and yet, you know, I will say that this was a slightly stronger cast. So where you had like the Bucka Red from Deca Ranger, I absolutely loved our Afro-Caribbean Red Ranger, whose name I forgot. But yet still, you know, I loved Sky, I loved Sid, I liked Z. Bridge, I liked Bridge's character. So I felt there was a much stronger cast here. And, you know, they were quite quirky. And, you know, I think the Buddy Murphy or Rick story made a little bit more sense for Power Rangers SPD. You know, like, I think they kind of established Doggy Kruger a lot better, in my opinion. And, you know, like, they did the whole thing with them having superpowers outside of their suits as well. Sam's storyline, Omega Ranger, that was a waste. I still scored SPD 24 points.
Back to
and
action.
it drew once, because it drew with the top of my list, number 1, RPM, Getting Gear. This is such an amazing story we've got here. It's so dystopian. I love the humour. It was so on point. We've got a very strong cast. I love the Truman storyline. I loved how Red Ranger had so much to live up to. I liked Blue Ranger. I was genuinely gutted when I found out he actually wasn't Scottish. I am still gutted on that. Summer, hot. And she'll still kick butt as well. When it comes to Green Ranger, whose name I forgot, he actually did comedy really well. Black, Dylan, he was very good. And when it comes to Gold, Silver and Professor K's story, I loved how it merged together. It was such great storytelling. And they did the villains a billion times better than Go Onja. They even referenced Go Onja with the name of their vehicle, so they even had their Sentai references on point. I'm sure there are some negatives and criticisms that could be made of RPM, but I'm not going to do any because I loved it. I can't even think of one. This series scored a full 25 points against everyone else in this list. Full stop. So that was my Power Ranger list. I hope you all enjoyed. Please tune in next week for the big one, Kamen Rider. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please follow, like and subscribe to this channel. Support me on Patreon as well as on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at RyuKiva Toku. My blog and fan sub page is at ryukivatoku.wordpress.com. Links are in the description. SH figure arts are not for children, suitable for ages 14+. See you next time.